Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, arm bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, the moss covered, three-handle family Gradunzo.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number four, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
Good afternoon, everyone out there in the B Plus Brotherhood. Welcome to All the Rest. It is me, it is I, Mr. Mysterious here for your All the Rest needs for this week. I'm going to be talking to you guys about all the wrestling news that we can't cover in our usual podcast because guess what? We have a podcast for everything. We have a podcast for Impact, which I'm actually now helping out Greg and getting to experience Impact once again. I've taken a break from it for a while, but I've decided to try and invest my time in that. And we've also got, of course, our podcast for Raw, SmackDown, and 205 Live, heralded by CJ and Danders, and Greg and Mikey covering NXT and NXT UK, and all the Kings of the Sport Universe podcasts, and Aussie Graps. It seems like a lot, but honestly, we have it down to a science, and it's just all for you guys. Now, before we get into a little bit of housekeeping, birthday news. The time I'm recording, I want to give a big, happy 58th birthday to Rick Steiner of the Steiner Brothers, multiple tag team champion, along with his brother Scott, the man who is so good at maths in IWGP, NWA, the World Wrestling Federation. Happy birthday to him, and a happy 48th birthday to Tiger Ali Singh. Not one of those names you really hear about. He was late 90s, early 2000s wrestler. Very lower kind of mid-card character. His career was more on Heat and other places like that. Very weird career, I will say that. So I'll mention those guys. It's a little bit quiet for birthdays and stuff, but we do have quite a big list of things to go through here, guys. We have MLW, we have AEW, we have NWA, and just, of course, all the updates on who's leaving, who's staying, who's injured, who's not, who's back. I'm here to sort that out for you. So without further ado, MLW Intimidation Games. That's right, we have the latest main event, latest pay-per-view, I should say, of MLW, which I feel was basically what were all the good things about Superfight, and let's throw them all together. That's basically what it seems like, because there's only 2 matches on this one. We have the Lucha Brothers going up against Taurus and Laredo Kid, and then we have the steel cage match for the World Heavyweight Championship, where Tom Lawler managed to successfully retain the championship against Low Ki. So there's only 2 matches. There was filler in between, like promos and everything else. But if you look back to Superfight, and if you hear Greg and I's discussion from a few weeks ago, you say, what did we like about Superfight? The opening match between the Lucha Brothers and the Hart Foundation, that was awesome. The middle went way too long with Rich Swann. Ricky Martinez. Koto Brazil is the name I'm looking for. My brain finally worked with that one. It's too early, guys. So they said that the middle match for that one kind of went a bit too long, and then, of course, the main event, quote-unquote, 4 minutes where Tom Lawler beat Low Ki, choked him out. It was very anticlimactic, and while it could happen in a professional bout, it's just not what you wanted to see as part of a big closing event, especially after 8 months of build-up. So I think MLW management kind of went, okay, let's fix on the things that people didn't like, and let's enhance the things that they did. Because before we start as well, I should mention, on commentary, we got Rich Piccini, but also Jim Cornette. My God, it is good to hear Jim Cornette on the commentary team again. Apparently, he is going to be a part of the commentary team for the foreseeable future, so this isn't just like a guest commentary spot. And also, as part of it, also as an MLW producer. I love this. It was just so good to hear Jim Cornette again. Like, say what you will about his views on the wrestling industry outside of when he is involved with the company and he's looking back on things and how passionate, I will say, he gets about things. But say what you will, the man is so talented, and he's one of those just classic analytical minds when it comes to commentary. It was gorgeous listening to him talk when it came to MLW stuff, and especially on the opening match, the Lucha Brothers versus Laredo Kid and Taurus, because like Lucha, last week we had Aerostar versus Ray Horus as the main event match for the last MLW episode. That was fine. It was okay. It didn't really grab my attention that much, but this one, like the Lucha Brothers, are almost like the anti-luchadors. They just, everything they do is almost completely opposite, or they'll enhance it. They're just natural game changers. I can say that right now. Like, multiple double teams by all of them. The action spilled onto the outside. There was a Phoenix and Pentagon locked up a Laredo Kid and Taurus in like a unique double submission. It was like a Boston Crab and a Muda lock. I loved it. The Lucha Brothers, they went for a spike power driver at one stage. If you look at the footage, Ray Phoenix, you can tell Ray Phoenix was just like really exerting himself, and he was really getting in the zone because he let the F-bomb slide a few times in that match, and they didn't even bleep it, which is like, let them do what they want because they are everywhere now and we need them. They pretty much, I feel like they're probably like, damn it, we need them. Like, let the F-bomb fly if they really need to, because the finish of the match was, I love this finish, how the Lucha Brothers do it. So they do their double team on Taurus. It's like a pile driver double stomp. Then Phoenix just bolts to the ring ropes and does a suicide dive onto Taurus that goes right into the crowd. Like, thankfully, no one was injured. Like, no fans or like Ray Phoenix. But of course, Pentagon managed to get the win. So it's just like, where do you look? Do you look at Phoenix or do you look at Pentagon, who got the win for Lucha Brothers? And you can just see Phoenix come out and just like, F me, man. Just like, he's really going for it. Just like, that was scary. Very awesome stuff. Like, Taurus, naturally, he looked like a beast going up against Pentagon. And of course, like, he's got that character. It was an amazing match. We need more AAA guys if we're going to keep the Lucha Brothers entertained, I would say, with MLW, because they want to keep the belts on the Hart Foundation at the moment. They're going to hold off on that rematch just yet until we figure out, okay, what is the exact deal with All Elite Wrestling. But I think in the meantime, in terms of special matches, like highlight matches, you get some of the best talent from around the world, whether it be through AAA or whether it be through other places like that. Like, by all means, give the Lucha Brothers some big marquee matches to kind of distract people from the fact that no, they should have the title rematch against the Hart Foundation, because it would be great. But of course, they're not going to do that just yet, because the Hart Foundation are still undefeated champs, who I should mention as well. We had the latest H2 TV where they announced that, yes, they will be doing the Freebird rules, which means that Brian Pillman Jr., MLW Rookie of the Year, is now a tag team champion. Congratulations to you, sir. We had a lot of promos. We had the preview for Battle Riot. We have got a few entrants already announced for that. I believe we've got MJF, we've got Davey Boy Smith Jr., Pentagon Jr. There's a whole bunch of names. Like, they keep announcing people as the days go on. So obviously it's a big 40-man rumble they have, where you can be eliminated by pinfall, submission, or over the top rope. Sounds a bit weird. Watch the first Battle Riot to give yourself an idea of how it works. Of course, submission was there for Tom Lawler. He was the last winner. And then the build-up for Super Fight, where he won the title. So, yeah, we had a few more promos. MJF and Richard Holloway are backstage saying he's the true middleweight champion. And he's really trying to get the heat, saying he's taking the shot at the Hart Foundation history, comparing them to the tragic endings of the Freebirds and the Von Erichs. And he calls himself and Holiday true wrestling prodigies. Oh, he's really getting slimy. I like it, but at the same time, like, you got to be really careful, MJF, what you say, because it's just some of the history with the legendary wrestling families. It's just sad, and it doesn't need repeating. Casey Lennox interviewed Selena De Lorenzo, or tried to, because Selena said no media people, and yet Casey Lennox still tried. I'm sorry, like, just the way the logic with cutting to Casey Lennox makes no sense. Makes her look incompetent. It makes the wrestling commentary seem a little bit, oh, we probably should have checked that first. That's just me. I don't know why I keep focusing on it. But the main event, of course, was Low Ki going up against Tom Lawler. This wasn't 4 minutes. This definitely wasn't 4 minutes. Low Ki came out, and I wasn't sure how this match would go. I wanted to be more amped for this. Like, it was a great match, don't get me wrong, but the build-up to this, how he's saying no media people, and the only thing that Selena would say was that Low Ki has been training with some of the stars, some of the UFC fighters that defeated Tom Lawler. And, like, at the very least, I would have thought, okay, we've had a media blackout this whole time. Give us a hype package of Low Ki training with these big stars, because Dan Severn did a promo a few days before Intimidation Games where he said he's backing Tom Lawler. And it would have been great just to see Dan Severn in an MLW ring, like at ringside. Of course, he couldn't do anything. It's a steel cage match. But or maybe he could have, just to stop Selena from sliding a roll of quarters or sliding everything else into the ring. That was a kind of missed opportunity. I will say as well, Low Ki, he started clapping the fans. Like, he started talking to the fans instead of, like, not immediately focusing on the match at hand. So I feel like that was a little bit of is that sowing the seeds for him having a little bit of issues with Promociones Dorado, because Selena was like, hey, mind on the match. It was a little thing. Like, he only clapped the hands of a couple of people as he walked back in. So Lawler comes out. A lot of stiff kicks, right hands from these guys. Low Ki locks in a front choke to slow the champ down. A lot of smashing onto the steel cage. Natural stuff. Great thing, especially because we don't have War Games to fall back on like last year. So, like I said, as much as I thought it could have been a lot better, this was a great ending match. And it does give credence to the fact that the action spilled to the outside. Low Ki was ramming Lawler's head onto the steel cage, and that kind of momentum made him fall first by ring escape. So through Low Ki's own fault, in a way, he kind of made sure that Tom Lawler won again, which I can see that being a good storyline for them to go into, and maybe Low Ki will kind of split from Promociones Dorado. if they persist with this, because I can see that being a good angle to go on, and just say, look, like Selena just like trying to hammer home, like, this is the one guy you haven't beaten, like, get this shit done, because Loki, it's a partnership with Promociones Dorado, because he is part of Black Friday management, which they're trying to make everyone kind of forget. We had, of course, after the match, after Lawler successfully retained the MLW Heavyweight Championship, he gets blindsided by three men. Simon Gotch without the mustache. I don't know if it's scary, the fact that he had the mustache. Like, I think I trust him less now without the mustache. I don't understand it. It felt so weird just to see him like completely clean shaven. Of course, like, he's Simon Grimm in other independent scenes like Blackcraft Wrestling. But this is, I believe, the way that this match kind of ended this whole event. It seems like this is the mysterious Contra that we've been seeing. So Loki, Simon Gotch came out with two other stars, including Samoan gentleman, I believe it's Josh Fatu. So he did a big Jimmy Snuka Superfly like splash from the top of the steel cage. He looked like a fucking champion right there. Big 20 feet drop onto Lawler. The three men are celebrating in the ring. They drape the Contra flag that we've been seeing this little graphic appear in the past few weeks, which is like, what exactly is Contra, you know? But yeah, it looked so good. And I'm so glad to see more of the Anoa'i family in wrestling, because they, of course, are wrestling royalty. It was a great thing to see. It was, especially since the match wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. It was a good note to end on, just like, holy shit. And it gives us time to focus on other stars, and it gives Loki time to focus on maybe like getting a little bit more of a storyline with Promociones Dorado. Can't complain. Loved it. Check it out, guys. It is the better sequel to Super Fight. I will definitely say that now. Now we'll move on to the latest episodes. We had All Elite Wrestling released episode 141 of Being the Elite, and also episode 6 of Road to Double or Nothing. I'll run down Being the Elite first. Episode 141, called the filler episode. We opened up with the Young Bucks saying, like, everyone kind of treats us differently now since we're executive vice presidents for All Elite Wrestling. And then all of a sudden, the Being Elite producers, like, now, Arthur, all those guys just saying, we want a job with All Elite. And it's like, I'm sorry, we've ruined your time. And it was a nice little thing. Like, how did you find our hotel room? They keep playing. Nice little new graphic as well. We don't have the classic Being the Elite introduction. It was more of a classic retro wrestling game, which I'll get to later on in the episode as well. We had MJF talk to Kylie Ray, saying that, oh yeah, it's good that you're eating cake. I love your smile. It's good that people of your figure can say screw you to the other women, and just he's making her feel like shit, taking away her smile, like, dick move, MJF. Like, it seemed like he was genuine in this one, not completely like, screw you assholes. It seemed like he was kind of genuine, and he just made her sad, which made me sad, and I like her. We had more of, as following on from last week, with the announcement that All Elite Wrestling would be partnering with Culture City to be a completely sensory inclusive event, which is amazing news. We cut to the chief branding officer, Brandy Rhodes, and her husband, Cody, in this test room, which looked awesome. It looked like a laboratory, looked like an X-Men laboratory in my mind. It had like little stuff on the walls. It had activities to do. You could turn the lights off. It was like big blue light thing. It looked beautiful, and I reckon it seems like a simple thing to do. More wrestling events should try and be sensory inclusive like that. I feel like, depending on where like indie wrestling have their events, you could have like a little room like this. Obviously not to the same scale as All Elite Wrestling, but it would be fantastic to see. Young Bucks have a new game out, some new figures, which was awesome. Sammy Guevara ran into an old friend, right? And it seems like they're gonna, kind of akin to how everyone, MJF is an asshole, but everyone loves him. Sammy Guevara as being absolutely like a saint to everybody, and then they're just like, what a prick. It seems like that's what they're doing with him. Kenny Omega is talking to someone in a diner, saying like, "I've known you for 10 years, man. Like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed that you would be a part of All Elite Wrestling." And cut to, who is it? It's not Kota Ibushi. It's Michael Nakazawa. Of course, a lesser known figure in the Japanese scene. He is now a member of All Elite Wrestling, and everyone's just like, I don't think we covered it on the Facebook page yet, but just like, who the hell is Nakazawa? And like, this is what you need. You need more new, like, people, of course, like, it'll be great to see the Golden Lovers reunite, the Golden Elites, and everything else. But I do respect Kota Ibushi for not being a part of All Elite Wrestling, and it gives it gives substance to the fact that Kenny Omega is like the talent relations guy for the international scene because he lives in Japan, he speaks Japanese, he's that great gateway, um, great consultant. That's probably not the right word, but he is that middleman to get some really great talent from Japan, from the Asian market that we have not seen before. I love it. So it was a real nice, like, who the hell is Nakazawa? We cut to Cody, and like Brandy is training hard in the ring. She looked good, like a lot more fast paced than what we've seen her wrestle at. So obviously she's improving as a wrestler. We have the Full Gear Challenge with a nice little infomercial by Hangman Page, and people are following him on his journey in the Full Gear Challenge. Love it, love it. I'm gonna see if I can hold up on the Full Gear Challenge as well. Like, see if I can get in full gear shape for around about the same time as All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. That would be great. Couple other things. Really, we ended on the big news because Cody and Nick and Matt, rather, they're saying like, yeah, this episode kind of felt like a filler episode. Maybe we should add a reveal. And of course, that it was Fight for the Fallen will be in Jacksonville in July, July 13th at the Daily's Place Amphitheater. Great stuff. I love this. And of course, episode 6, Road to Double or Nothing, aired. Little things like, I love the subtle humor in this compared to Being the Elite, where a few things they announced was they wanted AC Romero to sign with AEW. They saw the big smash heard around the world where he smashed the guy from the ring into the front row. Big 400-pound dude. Of course, he's part of the MLW roster. He's been a part of other independent scenes. AC baby is All Elite, baby. I love it. And not to mention, they talked about Pyro in this latest episode of Road to Double or Nothing, which, like, they're saying, like, Cody wants a big contained explosion in the ring. Like, Pyro is just one of those things that it just works naturally with the spectacle that is professional wrestling. It only makes things better. So that was the whole, and they're talking about the finances with their finance guy. I should have looked up his name, but I love, again, the subtle humor, just saying like, well, we've got the ring ropes, like he's just listing all this stuff, and they do the cutscene so many times that he's been talking for about 5 minutes about what the expenditure is, and just like, yeah, maybe we could add like one more thing. It's like, I'll make it happen. Like, solid effort. A lot of stuff happening in the land of All Elite Wrestling. I look forward to it. And we have the latest 10 Pounds of Gold, guys. Kind of the same stuff from last week's. We're focusing more on Marty Scurll this time. Of course, last week we had that reveal as well, but it focused more on Dory Funk and Nick Aldis getting to talk to the legendary figure who once held the 10 Pounds of Gold for about 4 years. This one focused more on the friendship between Nick Aldis and Marty Scurll. They had Caprice Coleman do a little bit of commentary on this one as well. He's like a more animated, more mature Byron Saxton. I love it. But that was pretty much it, guys. It just focused on the basic parts of the rivalry between the villain and Nick Aldis. I wouldn't say rivalry, it's like the potential rivalry because they are friends, but Nick Aldis got embarrassed by the villain with all this stuff. And I don't know. I'll say it. I said it last week and I'll say it again. I feel like he could be the guy to take away Nick Aldis's 10 pounds of gold, and it would be a nice little thing, callback, as you will, to keep it up to all ins, to all out, I should say. I see that being a thing where Marty Scurll was the disbanded member of All Elite Wrestling. He's back now with the 10 pounds of gold. I can see that happening. It'll be a great thing. Now, before we cut to the rest of the wrestling news, let's have a quick word from our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out outbreaknutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, outbreaknutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. Alright guys, just before we get started, I want to take a second to tell you about a game I've been playing on my iPhone. You can get it on iPhone, you can get it on Android, all the tablets and what have you. It is called the Muscle Hustle app. They are good friends of the show, and they were hooking us up with codes to sort of help you guys get ahead if you were to decide to play the game. But unfortunately, in the latest software updates with iTunes and what have you, the codes aren't working. So we're trying to get that fixed. But in the meantime, if you click the link in the show notes and download the Muscle Hustle, it's a fantastic game. It's you collect wrestlers and train your wrestlers up, all with unique individual gear and everything to raise them through the ranks from jobber to superstar to legend. You go around collecting the titles, and you can even play with your friends. So unfortunately, no leg up to offer you, but if you hit the link in the show notes, it will let them know that we sent you, and it'll help us out, it helps them out, and it helps you out because it's a really fun game to play. So check out the Muscle Hustle app on iOS, Android, and all your mobile devices. The link, of course, is in the show notes.
Alright, and we're back, guys. Let's get into all the other wrestling news. Of course, let's talk about injuries. The sad part to cut to in all the rest, because there's a big one, and it involves the NXT champion, Tommaso Ciampa. It was said last week that he would maybe suffering from an undisclosed injury, and now it's revealed he needs neck surgery, but major neck surgery. He'll have to take, at the time frame is not too certain, but it will be a long time. At least 6 months, but it can take up to 14 months, probably maybe even longer with this one. This is the same neck surgery that Lita had, Stone Cold, Edge. Like, everyone who comes back from this kind of neck surgery, if they come back to wrestling, they wrestle very, very differently, right? So this is heartbreaking because we've been building for years to this story between Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, DIY. I hate this. And as much as right when it was about to finally conclude, and Gargano might have potentially won finally against Ciampa before he finally went on to the main roster proper. Of course, they were both moved up to the main roster. It's been cut short, and injuries can happen at any time. It's horrible, but it's the truth. How Gargano will continue on the main roster, I don't know. Maybe he'll be called back down to NXT to kind of fill that void and maybe pick up the title. I could see other stars being the NXT champion. My pick off the top of my head would be Adam Cole. He'd be a great one to start off with, to fill the void. But of course, I feel like they could make that a big tournament as well. That was really horrible news to hear throughout the week, especially since he was recently called up and part of the weird Raw SmackDown matches that they've got him doing, along with Ricochet and Aleister Black. I don't know. It seems weird what they're doing with them with the call-ups. I still don't really like it. Of course, they are very talented. And that was just a big injury through this week. Returns, guys, we have some rumored returns. Like, by the way, I should mention, like, I hate, because we have to do our research for this, I hate websites that just, like, updates on stars, and then you click on it and it's just saying, like, well, it's still expected that he will possibly, like, that's not an update, right? It's not an update. I've wasted a click on your clickbait story doing that. But the ones that I have here are not clickbait. They are factual, right? So we have Fandango. There was a video released by the WWE Performance Center. Very different to what we've seen before from Fandango, because everyone knows him with Tyler Breeze as Breezango, as the Fashion Police, that whole gimmick. Of course, Tyler Breeze, I believe it was a leg injury that he suffered, like a torn meniscus, or he had some kind of injury that pulled him out of action for about 6 months. And we haven't seen Breezango really wrestling at all since then, I feel. But this Performance Center video, it made it seem like there's going to be a serious shift, like a more serious character from Fandango when he returns. They didn't say whether it was to NXT. They didn't say whether it was to Raw or SmackDown. But you see, it feels like he's going to be a lot more serious character, which, fair play. He deserves to have a serious gimmick, like a proper, a serious character, not even a gimmick. Like, he deserves that after years of being the Fashion Police guy, Breezango guy, which he was great in. He ran with it and he made it his own. He deserves a little bit more attention. And this, watch it. It's just 5 minutes, guys, on the Performance Center YouTube channel. It amps you up just watching it. We do have some rumors returns, of course, up to WrestleMania. This year's WrestleMania. John Cena is expected to be, like, of course, he hasn't been announced for anything yet, but at the time I'm recording, it's confirmed that he will be in the area for WrestleMania weekend. He will be doing book signings for his Elbow Grease book. The guy does everything, man. So the former 16-time world champion will be in New York City during WrestleMania week. It is confirmed. So he'll be doing meet and greets at the Strand Bookstore in Union Square, New York on April 5th. If you're in the area, you might be able to see the man, or maybe you won't. We can't see him. Like, I don't know why he's doing a book signing. You can't see him. We have a couple people leaving leaving companies. It's a big one for WWE. It's a big one. Good old JR, Jim Ross, is not choosing to renew his contract with WWE. So it expires on March 29th, and he will be moving on to greener pastures. Now, you would think, like almost forget that Jim Ross is still a part of the WWE roster. He got his contract renewed a couple years ago, and he hasn't really done anything with the commentary side of things, like probably more backstage, of course, but he's been used very sparingly. I think for the Raw 25th anniversary, he was on commentary. He's, of course, done commentary for the Mae Young Classic, but the whole working relationship that Jim Ross has had with WWE since he became a Hall of Famer, since he left the full-time commentary team, it seems like they're very few and far between, because they fired him, they've rehired him. It's a bit of a mess. And he announced on his podcast, so this isn't like conjecture, this is like the man himself confirmed that he's just, he wants to try something new. He's 67 years old, good God, but he still feels like he is in the zone as a commentator. He still feels like he can perform at that level. I reckon, like, say what you will about, he's not at the same level that he once was, but he's still like 10 times better than a lot of the commentary that WWE pump out. I'm not looking at names. I'm not going to say names. Michael Cole. No. But it's good to see that Jim Ross is looking on to try and still do stuff in his career before he ultimately retires proper. And, of course, the rumors, because Jim Ross was rumored to be a part of All Elite Wrestling before it was even announced. late last year, right? He's been rumored that he had some kind of role in the company, and now it's going to start up again. Would you like to see Jim Ross as a full-time commentator on the All Elite Wrestling spot? Maybe not full-time, but giving his 2 cents in. I would personally love it. It depends on how All Elite Wrestling want the perception of their company to be in terms of like brand new things, right? As much as like they're bringing in some classic stuff like Pyro and everything else, do they want to harken back to the days of old with Jim Ross? Like, let us know, guys. Like, that's obviously up to you. Got some unfortunate passings in this week. Of course, we had not a wrestler, but Luke Perry, actor from 90210. He is the father of Jungle Boy, who is the recent signee of All Elite Wrestling. They had a nice little memorial tribute in the opening episode of Road to Double or Nothing, which I thought was really sweet. And King Kong Bundy, unfortunately, has died at the age of 61. One of the big stars of the classic WWF era, like back in WrestleMania, World Wrestling Federation. One of the part of the Heenan family. Like, he will be missed. He was one of those guys that really helped build Hulkamania and into what it was, how the main event for WrestleMania 2, when he was up against Hulk Hogan. At the time, he was the best thing for wrestling. And I feel a bit underappreciated. Like, we can say that now. Like, but it's true. It's very true. Like, he was a very underappreciated wrestler, and for the time, he was the best at being the big lingering threat. So let us know what you feel about the late great King Kong Bundy. I feel like they're going to do a posthumous Hall of Fame induction. I wouldn't say this year. I could say probably like 2020. That would probably be more likely. Some other health news: the legendary Harley Race, according to Ric Flair. Now, this has been a bit of a fluff by the Nature Boy. So he announced that Harley Race was suffering from lung cancer, but the way he was phrased it in a fan Q&A, he phrased it like he was terminal. And then people close to Harley Race, or I don't know, the man himself actually said like, no, he has cancer, but it's not terminal, which is like a little oops slip by Ric Flair. Of course, we do not want Harley Race to have the former, and we wish him a speedy recovery, because he's a historic figure in the world of professional wrestling, and we want him to be a part of the scene for as long as he can, of course. So, bit of sad stories. I'm getting through the sad stories here, guys, before I move on to the better news, the better things that we can talk about. Lars Sullivan, we've got a little bit of update about him. According to Pro Wrestling Sheet, he's in a good place. He's in a good place with how, of course, for those of you guys who aren't aware, he was part of the NXT roster. He was meant to be called up. There were promos and everything else. And if rumors to be believed, he was actually meant to face off against John Cena in some kind of storyline. They had big plans for him. Like, he wasn't the most groundbreaking star on the NXT roster, but like, there's no faulting for taste. And of course, he had a bit of a breakdown. And fair play, WWE have been completely supportive of him, dealing with his anxiety about his debut or whatever it was around about that time. But yeah, sources close to the wrestler have said that he's begun seeking help from mental health professionals. WWE have been very accommodating, and apparently he feels better than ever being out of the spotlight. He's happy for his other comrades in NXT for being called up. Whether he does return to WWE remains to be seen, and whether it'll be a part of NXT again or it'll be part of the main roster, we don't know. It shows how much faith that WWE had in him to give him that push, especially against John Cena, if that was the plan. Obviously, it's good to and mental health is such a serious issue, and it's good that WWE of all people have learnt from their mistakes with, of course, Mauro Ranallo, how they handled that situation with JBL. I'll briefly just touch on that, but just the fact that they've learnt just to realize, like, no, these issues are very serious, and you need to be supportive and not be assholes. So lovely to see that they have learned from that era. There's been some backlash, I would say. The latest Hall of Fame inductee to the WWE Hall of Fame. So we have DX, we have the Hockey Tonk Man, and now we have Tori Wilson. A lot of people were very surprised by this. I was as well, admittedly. But a lot of people have Tori Wilson has had to make a statement because of people saying that she doesn't deserve it because she never won a championship during her time in WCW or WWE, and that she was mainly used as a sex symbol. Like she was a fling with Vince McMahon. She had the story with her father and her on-screen father and Dawn Marie. That whole thing. They had the lesbian angle with her and Dawn Marie. They had the bra and panties matches. Like the feud with Sable. Like they had so much stuff that was Attitude Era, tits and ass, that kind of thing. And Tori Wilson was kind of a figurehead for that. Like she was that star that WWE had during that time. Not to say that she wasn't also a capable wrestler, but her talents in the ring were kind of overshadowed by the fact that she was more used as like for her looks, as more of a model figure. But Tori's actually come out and saying that, I'm not Charlotte Flair, I'm not jumping off ladders, but I did have something to contribute to WWE. And she's saying, I think for most people, we are too quick to start looking at the negatives, and which, fair play. You got to realize, as much as the Hall of Fame is WWE makes it seem like this big, prestigious thing, and in a way it is, they have celebrity wings, right? They have other areas of the Hall of Fame that are just for show and just for commentary and just for silly reasons that people are in there. It's not as prestigious as everyone wants it to be. Obviously, that the longer it goes on, the more history it gains. But you have to keep in mind that there are a lot of stars in that list who arguably may not deserve to be there. To some, that's subjective. But who, again, didn't win championships during their run, but they were iconic figures in the land of professional wrestling. So check yourself, guys, before you start throwing heat on these people. And I'm just let's be happy for Tori Wilson. So good on her, future WWE Hall of Famer. That will happen in the next few weeks. A lot of WWE news this week, guys. It's going to be hard to try and sort through the indie stuff. Roman Reigns got recently interviewed about the idea of WWE having an off season. So it was an interview with Talk Sports, and he's saying they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time. The formula has worked, and unfortunately, that industry doesn't really have an off season. But if they can make it work, it would be great for the great for the performers, great for the fans. He's saying stuff that we kind of already know. But at the same time, the way this is coming around, especially with All Elite Wrestling, I don't know. I feel like we could have maybe a shift in thinking to kind of not comply, but to usher in a new era for professional wrestling where, yes, the wrestlers can take breathers. Like Roman Reigns suggested a couple months or even 3 months. It sounds like a big time, but at the same time, it would do wonders for the wrestlers because they work through the holidays. They work through Christmas and New Year and stuff, depending on if Raw's on at the same time. They barely see their families. Their schedule is the hardest of anyone else's. And if other companies may introduce the idea of off seasons, All Elite Wrestling, I'm looking at you, it might make them check themselves and just yeah, maybe we should look into that. Because if Roman Reigns is talking about it, the balls on him to actually just acknowledge the fact that, oh, maybe this could be a thing that we should look into. It shows that the level of status he has now coming back to WWE, of course, welcome back Roman. I don't see them doing it in the immediate future, but I can see a change in thinking how All Elite Wrestling will eventually impact on the wrestling scene, because it has already. It's not even out yet. Double or Nothing isn't even out yet. and it's just a big thing for all of the wrestling world. Got some more creative updates. Jeff Jarrett has been confirmed to be a WWE creative team member, and we have a little bit more of an update on Bruce Pritchard's role in WWE. He is a senior vice president on the creative team, so this new role had to be fully worked out for Bruce Pritchard, and there's going to be a lot of change happening back behind the scenes on many levels. Of course, throughout the weeks, I've been covering on Abyss, Sanjay Dutt, The Hurricane, like all these guys. I should point out, I saw a meme about this, and I didn't realize this, but it's true. WWE bought out TNA without buying TNA. They bought all of their creatives and put them as WWE producers, and they're going to be guest trainers for the performance centers. So, in a very subtle way, they bought TNA. Of course, Impact is still going, and it is still, it's not quite on its last legs, like, but depending on if you're watching it. I feel I've only just started watching it again, but it's just like, it's one of those things like shit. They took all the big parts, all the big marquee people from TNA, and they are now part of the backstage area for WWE. It's weird to think about. We have more news on, again, intergender wrestling. That keeps being a topic that keeps being pushed up. This time from the new women's tag team champion, one half, I should say, Bayley. She, of course, wants to bring back intergender wrestling. She, of course, talked to Sport Bible about, and I should mention as well, the Boston Hug Connection. They recently appeared on the latest episode of NXT. They didn't defend the belt, but they are staying true to the fact that you will see Sasha and Bayley on Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. It doesn't matter where WWE go. They could be there. You have to watch out for them now. And I feel like WWE want to make Sasha and Bayley happy because NXT is their home. NXT, and that's not a slight on those two, because as much as people think that NXT is like WWE, the main roster, quote unquote, is Raw and SmackDown, NXT is where it's at. And to see Sasha and Bayley going around to NXT as well, like doing all these defenses there, makes me happy. And it feels like that they're trying to keep them happy as well, so they don't go to pastures anew, quote unquote, All Elite Wrestling. But yeah, they mentioned like she harkened back to the era of China. She's saying that again, she wants to see more of like maybe Nia Jax getting involved more with the boys. We don't know. I can see it being a good thing. Like, of course, WWE, you did it before. There's no reason not to do it now. Like, come on, check yourself, guys. Got a couple other WWE news before I move on to the independent scene. We have WWE had their tryouts in India. Like, of course, we touched on it last week, but they actually released a big comprehensive list of all the tryouts. My God, I'm not going to insult you guys by mispronouncing your names, but they had some bodybuilders in there. They had some amateur wrestlers in there, some MMA fighters, various ages as well, like early 20s, late 20s. I think there was, all are about the same age, like all in their 20s, guys, throughout that big 4-day trial run. A lot of proteges of the great Khali and his school over there in India. Some big stars too, like big in terms of like size, because there's some 286, 300 pounders there, like even plus than that. And there's like some 7-footers. It shows that they are really dedicating a lot of care into maybe bringing out some more Indian stars, which they wanted to do with Jinder. Didn't really work out because, of course, he's Canadian as well. And I think tapping into the Indian market, it feels like this is a good stepping stone. And the fact that, they put on it's there for everyone to see on WWE.com, just a big comprehensive list of all the people that could potentially be a part of the wrestling scene, like all with like prior experience in the wrestling industry, in bodybuilding, in MMA, in acting. They have a great pool of talent to work from, and I would love to see more serious Indian stars in professional wrestling. Like maybe we'll see them more in the NXT side. Maybe they will be the next to have a performance center. Who knows? We have one more bit of WWE news to talk about, guys, before I finish. Ronda Rousey. This one, this could be the best thing for her or the worst thing. This depends on how you look at it. So on her vlog that she has, her own YouTube channel, she talked about the latest Raw where she says no more Mrs. Nice Bitch, and she beat the crap out of Becky Lynch, or I'm sorry, Rebecca Quinn, as she said. She's breaking kayfabe, like really breaking kayfabe with this one, where she's saying that it's very like she let the F-bomb fly in this one. Like I'll try and say as best as I can, but she's saying it wasn't a promo. They gave me other things to say. I didn't effing say it. Like it's not an act. I'm not going out there and doing the effing act anymore. Like, and everyone's like, "Oh, don't break kayfabe, Ronda. Wrestling is scripted. It's made up. It's not real. None of you bitches can touch me." The end. It's like, oh, this is very divisive because, like, we all know that wrestling isn't, like, to say the F word, like, we all know that wrestling is fake. But at the same time, what these guys do is definitely requires a lot of skill and talent just to completely give them short change and say the word fake. But I think this could be a good thing. Like in a world where everyone knows about kayfabe, it feels like this would be good for Ronda just to like break it even more before ultimately, if your rumors to be believed, losing the title at WrestleMania and going on to maybe have a family, like to try and have a family with her husband. Like that's the expected thing to happen. It might not. You never know. But yeah, we'll leave it up to you guys. Let us know what you think. Like I can see this being good if done right, and if anything, it gives Ronda a chance to really come into her own because she's not the best at her promos, which also, fun fact, Paul Heyman is in charge of her promos, the ones that she tries to stick to. And it's not surprising. Like, he is, of course, his client, Brock Lesnar, the current Universal Champion, the man who does not appear on Raw and stuff. You can see a lot of similarities in Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar, like, of course, besides their background, their MMA backgrounds and stuff. But just the fact that they are natural athletes, and Paul Heyman likes to sow the seeds of, like, well, if these guys want to, like, flip the script and just kick everyone's asses, who's going to stop them? Like, there was an interview that Paul Heyman did, I think it was on Not Sam Radio or whatever, just saying, like, oh, when Brock beat the streak, saying that if Brock wanted to, he could have just forced Undertaker's shoulders to the mat and made sure that the streak ended. Like, who's to say that didn't happen? I'm not saying it did, but who's to say? Like, that was his kind of thinking. And this is kind of following on from that. Ronda's just like, wrestling is scripted. Like, you're all bitches. And Rebecca Quinn, I promised I'd kick your ass, and I beat the crap out of you. That's exactly what I did. I see this feels more good to me than bad. I will say that. So again, guys, let us know what you think. Moving on to the other weird wrestling news we have for you guys. David Arquette has been revealed by his sister Patricia, who is also an actor on an episode of Ellen, that before he started his wrestling career again, like he reborn as a wrestler, apparently he had a heart attack or some kind of heart issues, and his sister naturally was like, and you want to get back into wrestling? Like, you don't owe these people anything, damn it. Like, she doesn't watch his wrestling. But level of dedication, like, it needs to be said. Like, someone who, yes, he did win the WCW championship, and yes, it was a bad decision, but he has made up all the money he got as champion and all the money he has gotten since then. Like, a good majority of it went to wrestlers, and there was charities to do with wrestlers' injuries, who have suffered like long-term injuries through professional wrestling. Like, he paid his dues, and he doesn't want to be remembered as the guy who, like, the asshole who won the WCW title. And the fact that, again, like, he had some heart issues as well, and he's still trying to do this in his late 40s, no less. Massive respect for him, guys. Like, lay off Arquette. He's trying to craft something for himself, and if that ultimately leads to a championship somewhere, he's earned it. He's earned it, guys. Let him have it. It'll be a nice little, like, you know what? You've paid your dues. This is how the wrestling world will thank you, with a tag title. I don't see him being a singles champion, but I can see, like with RC City, maybe that would be a good one. We have some weird stories to come out, guys. I'll touch on All Elite Wrestling. Joey Janela thinks that All Elite Wrestling will have some deathmatch elements in it, which, of course, he is a deathmatch wrestler predominantly. And All Elite Wrestling also have Jimmy freaking Havoc in there. I can see them incorporating death matches into the sport. It would be used very sparingly. Like, they've got, like, OVE, and they've got other stars, like, other, like, promotions being involved with the company. I don't see them focusing entirely on death matches. They could be, like, big marquee things that WWE don't really do anymore. But it depends on the type of situation. And death matches, like, again, taste is subjective, but death matches can be a really good thing. And it can really, like, depending on how far a storyline goes, they can really hammer home. Like, because the object of a death match, what is it? Not to die. David Arquette nearly died doing his death match. Like, and that was a very dangerous thing. There's, like, a lot of real elements. Again, it would be really great to see. I don't want it to be a staple of All Elite Wrestling, but I can see it being okay, the bad blood has gotten so bad, we need to up the ante some more. I can see them being not afraid to do it because, again, All Elite Wrestling, they're going to change the universe, baby, if you believe Chris Jericho. We have some other All Elite Wrestling news. Billy Gunn, the future WWE Hall of Famer, weirdly enough, because he has been involved with All Elite Wrestling, and his role in the company is been highlighted a bit more. So he is not a producer, he is a coach. So really his role is more to get the guys used to being in front of a camera, like being in front of live TV rather than independent shows and everything else, saying, like, he's the head coach, like, he deals with a lot of the younger talent that need to be developed and help them find a way to take control. Like, and he's saying further on down the line he might take more control of the talent, but at the moment he's just helping them grow and be nurturing. Like, because I believe his son may be involved with All Elite Wrestling. It hasn't been confirmed yet. But yeah, it's nice to see that Billy Gunn has kind of found himself in this position. And, like, it's good to have a little bit of experience. Like, again, one of those guys who needs to pay his dues for other stuff like steroids and whatever you, but, like, it seems like All Elite Wrestling are respecting the past, embracing the future, and they want to change the universe. Let them, guys. We are in for a treat. We have a couple other stories here, some weird ones. I was going to end on this until super producer Greg gave me another thing to talk about. Sabu was suspended from Twitter. Like, the death-defying, suicidal, homicidal Sabu, the larger-than-life character, he got his Twitter account suspended due to hateful conduct after a complaint was filed against him for offensive homophobic language. I don't believe that his Twitter is back up again. It's not exactly sure what he said, but if it was that serious that he needed to get his Twitter taken off him for a while, I don't know. Like, Sabu, of course, is going to be a part of United We Stand in a couple weeks' time with the Impact Lucha Underground crossover pay-per-view, the second one, which I hope lives up to the name of the last one. Sabu is still in his 50s. He can still go. He is an amazing wrestler. maybe we'll see more about what exactly he said, right? But and WWE, I'll harken back to WWE. This could be the best thing for WWE or the worst thing, because they have a watch along they've announced for the Fastlane pay-per-view. So they've got a live stream that will be hosted by Pat McAfee as he watches the show backstage with candid commentary, quote unquote, from the likes of Alexa Bliss, The New Day, Mustafa Ali, Peyton Royce, Beth Phoenix, Christian, and they even said in their announcement, and more will probably crash the party. Who knows? But this could be the best thing or the worst thing, because the stars are expected to give live reactions, and I can see it being, because if they've actually announced that the New Day are going to be involved, that we're going to see them on the live stream, like Kofi on the live stream, saying like, "I'll be back in a second." Then he bolts to the ring and maybe gets involved in the Daniel Bryan match with Kevin Owens. Maybe I can see that happening. I don't know. And it's meant to be live, true reactions, but I feel like it's just going to be an extra layer of guest commentary if done wrong. I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, if it's going to seem like it's genuine, or it's just going to seem like them more content that's just going to not mean much, but it has the potential to be an interesting thing for the WWE universe moving forward, especially if it goes well. We'll probably see it in WrestleMania as well. Yeah, so the stream is live Sunday, March 10th, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or 4 PT on the WWE Network. You can watch along with the superstars on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check it out, guys. I can see it being I can see it done well. It could be a good thing. And we'll end, guys, on a little bit of classic gaming news, weirdly enough. Our little fluff piece for the week. An old NES wrestling game has been found after 30 years, one that has never been released on the market, but one fan, a YouTuber named Arkin1981, obtained a copy of a wrestling game called UWC, which featured wrestlers like Ric Flair, the Road Warriors, Sting. This was back during the WCW games, and this UWC standard for Universal Wrestling Corporation. It was a placeholder name for WCW when it was purchased by Ted Turner back in the late 80s. And it's awesome that this classic, if you're a classic gaming fan, it's awesome to see that this stuff kind of surfaced after all this time. It's great to see, early gaming history. Know your history, guys. And he said that he's going to put the ROM online, so people who want to play it as well can. So now it's going to be released to the masses. So that can only be a good thing. It would be nice, just the evolution of wrestling games, the evolution of professional wrestling from the 80s. There is a link, look it up, unreleased NES game. I see it being a good thing. And it's just a nice little oh, that's sweet. Because wrestling games, they have come a long way as well, almost as much as the industry has. I think that's all the time we have, guys. If you like what we do here, please leave a 5-star review. Please leave us a comment. It really does make a difference. We love to hear from you guys. If you want to hear from me, I am at Ms. Mysterious with a 1 and 7 I on all the socials: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Hit me up. We'll have a good old chat. If you want to follow our super producer Greg, he is at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. Or if you want to follow us all collectively, we are at the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter, because wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. If you want to be a part of our Patreon, please donate what you can. You'll have access to all of our other content that we are doing to make the professional wrestling scene better for you guys, with our influence. And we're just trying to give back to you guys, while at the same time giving you stuff that you've never seen before, whether it be with the Australian scene, which is our little passion project, and also all the news from the international wacky world of wrestling, because we will be there. We will be there, guys. Like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. Thank you guys so much for listening. I've been Mr. Mysterious, and I'll see you later.
Hold one! Arm drag!
You're not done with this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list!
So, no speak English.
Dummy!
ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it! Coming now.
Hold 3. The moss covered.